Yeah, just a few words for those of you that don't know me. I think everyone probably does, but just if there is anyone out there that doesn't know me, my name is Barry Cranford. I'm one of the organisers of the London CTOs. I'm not a CTO myself. I run a tech recruitment company called RecWorks. So our mission, if you like, what we're trying to do is try and prove that recruitment can be a force of good in the industry. And exist at the heart of the industry and pull everyone together so that everyone can kind of get by with a lot of learning. My personal passion and goal in the whole thing is around mentoring. So we run a mentor introduction service. Again, it's completely free, called Meet a Mentor. If anybody's interested in either mentoring junior CTOs or finding a mentor of a more experienced CTO, you can find a link or ask me and come and get involved, all free and all just to help the community there. So without further ado, I'm going to move on to today's event then. So this is something new. We thought we'd try. It came in as a request actually. So we always like to give these things a go. Some things then take off and become huge, and other things don't. So hopefully it will work. Forgive me if it doesn't. But please do let me know if you'd like to do similar things in the future. So I'm going to hand over now to Owen Woods, who's going to be speaking about and giving a brief demo on Miro. So Owen, I'll hand over to you, and yeah.
Great, thanks. So I thought, this session is all my fault. I suggested it, so sorry, Barry, if if it doesn't work well. The reason I thought it was interesting was honestly because we're all having to adapt to potentially quite large teams, all being remote. And the problem we've had is not how we get individual developers and testers working off a backlog. I mean, we've been doing that for years, and that's not a problem. The problem is how you co-create or how you run workshops. And one of the things we do is we run a lot of scaled agile workshops. So we've been looking at a whole lot of tools, including Adobe Connect and other things. But a tool that we had originally looked at just for our digital product designers was called Miro. None of the engineers had ever heard of it, but it used to be called Real-Time Whiteboard, and it's very famous in the product design space. So all the software engineers went, it's completely irrelevant to us. And we all looked at other things, and then the product designers went, actually, come back. You really should take a look at this. And actually, we were all quite surprised. It is clearly aimed at the creative the creative kind of process, but we've actually found that we've now run quite a lot of very technical workshops using it. So I just thought I'd show it to people just so that people knew it was there. There's a free version and there are various paid versions. I confess I don't really know the difference between them because we're currently in an enterprise, final stages of an enterprise trial. So I think we've got the whole product, but there is a free version, and actually our designers, we have been using the free version without telling anyone for about 18 months. And quite recently they wanted to upgrade to the paid version, so they confessed they'd been using this for ages. So the idea of Miro, you can see my screen. I'll show you that I've got two frames up. They have an app which sits on the desktop, which runs on Mac and Windows. It's a marginally better experience, but it's not hugely different, and it runs natively in all major web browsers. I am quite contrarian and use Firefox. Most of my colleagues use Chrome. Our Windows developers all use Edge. Our Mac people split between Chrome and Safari, and that's all. It all seems to have worked in all of them. The idea of Miro is that it's an infinitely sized whiteboard, but unlike a whiteboard, where obviously once you've written on it, you've just got an image, the objects are retained when you after you've dropped them on the board. So they retain their personality, if you like, and their characteristics. The other thing about the board is that it's quite good at handling very large scale. So I can have some people doing things off here, and some people off here, and I can just keep on zooming out, and you can create a board as big as you want. The problem with that, of course, is that you can just end up with a right old muddle. So they've clearly been thinking about this for a while, and it's got quite a lot of nice features. Now, of course, it won't zoom in for me. There you go. It's got quite a lot of nice features. Let me just move my cursor out of the way over here. It's got quite a lot of nice features to deal with how you break up a board. So frames are one of them, where you can just stick a frame on the board, drop things inside it, and hopefully, this can be a little bit fiddly to do. Hopefully now, yes, when I move the frame, the things are now an object. Effectively, it's a group if you're used to any drawing program that's ever been put on the planet. So this allows you to mark out areas clearly. It also allows you to lock areas. One of the maddening things about Miro is that when you've got a big busy board and you've got 20 people working on it, you can have people inadvertently pick up and drop things right across the board, which is all a bit confusing. Somebody accidentally picks up a whole frame maybe, they don't realize they've got it, so they drop it like 1,000 pixels away, which, given that people are working in one space, is very confusing. So you can lock a frame. Once it's locked, anybody can unlock it, but you've got to do it quite intentionally. When you click on it, it will tell you, if you want to make a change, that you need a long press to unlock. It's a very deliberate action. It's also got a lot of interaction tools. So it's got a set of drawing tools as you'd expect. It's got text boxes like this one, which they're pretty, in fact, if I had one criticism of the product, they could improve the text boxes immensely. They're a little awkward to format. They don't really have much formatting. They're a little awkward to deal with. As you scale the text, generally the box gets bigger, but it's often not what you want. You actually want it reflowing. It's clearly not a text processing tool, but actually, given that you don't normally want to be working with long blocks of text, that's generally okay. Another very useful feature we have found is that it will allow you to connect things together. So I'll show you a real board in a few minutes, which is obviously much more complicated. One of the things that we found in workshops works very well is that people drop their notes or their text boxes and they connect them to other objects. And so you know, unlike often on a whiteboard, you actually know what's connected to what. And then if I move this lovely sticky in blue, all of its notes follow it. And so I can collect those and move them somewhere else if I want to. And so effectively, for all of these things, it's an advanced drawing tool, an object-based drawing tool, and it's got a lot of plugins. If it's got things like clever icons, it's got smart icons for AWS, it's got cards, which I must confess, they're a bit like stickies, but I can't remember all the differences, but they've got various functional differences to stickies. As you can tell, we're still learning about it. It's got the ability to visualize data. It can pull in an iframe from elsewhere, and there's a lot more apps such as links to Dropbox, links to OneDrive, Google Drive. You can link it in real time to Slack. You can link it to Teams. That's what we use, so we link ours to Teams. You can link it to most of the defect tracking systems and so on. So it's not, one of the things we really like about it. Oh, and you can write your own app. An app is simply, just like plugins for lots of these systems, it's a set of REST services sitting on the web somewhere. So you just build a small REST app, you drop it on Azure, and you can link the two together. So one of the things we really liked about Miro was our experience. For example, the Adobe toolset, even the online connected version, it's a pretty closed universe. They assume that you're in the Adobe world. The Miro assume that they're an aggregator of information, but they also assume they don't have all the information. They also assume their information is quite transitory. So you can export boards, but also they're assuming that they'll be dragging in information in real time to allow you to work with it on a board. So that's the kind of drawing and pulling information. The other thing it's got, though, which we have found very attractive, is it's got a number of features for working together. So anybody can be given a link to a Miro board read-only, and the only thing they can do is apply comments. And a comment is one of these. It's effectively a special post-it note that says, "This is really nice. More of that, please." Oh, I don't know why that doesn't work. Maybe that doesn't work in comments. Oh, maybe it's because it was I was writing it. And so we can attach comments to objects, and then again they stayed attached to them, and we can see that all the comments on the board. If you think how big the board gets, it's quite useful to be able to navigate through, because you know somebody dropped a comment about something. It's quite nice to be able to navigate through them like that. And it's got things like voting, where you can set up a poll. This is one I set up earlier, where you vote on objects on the board. So you can either stick items you want specifically to vote on, like questions on the board, or you can just ask people to choose items from the board. So for example, which one do people prefer? And so they can vote on frames or notes or drawings or text blocks or whatever. And you can limit it to a set, or it can just vote on all of them. It's also got things like timers, which we found extremely useful. So you can have a timer in the bottom of everyone's board. So you can see I've got the board displayed twice here. The timer has appeared on the second board. I can't choose to not see the timer, so that you can hold yourself to account. And it's, of course, it's got a full activity log, so you can see what everyone has done to the board. Finally, it's got quite a feature which is both nice and a bit maddening, where you can see on this board, I'm moving my cursor around, and you can see the cursor is shown on the other board. So you can tell who's live on the board at any time. You can switch this off, because if you've got 40 people, it just looks like a swarm of bees. But during a workshop we ran last week, this is really useful because you can tell who's interacting, you can tell what they're working on. And because their cursor tends to be where their eye is, it gives you an idea of what they're looking at. So we found that very useful. That is Miro, really. Interactive, infinite whiteboard with smart objects on it that allows you to pull information from many sources. I'm going to show you a real one now. This is actually real Endava internal data, so I ask you to just respect the normal Chatham House rules.
Do you want me to pause the recording at all, Owen?
No, there's nothing tremendously sensitive.
Okay.
I don't mind people seeing it, but just to give you an idea of, this was a workshop we ran actually 2 weeks ago for 2 days. We imported a lot of text onto it. We imported stuff from our existing methods. This is TEAS, our Scale Agile framework. The bit over here, SDM Real Journey, that's a bit from our team method for how we go about developing systems. This is a sketch in the middle of how we're going to be working in our DevOps modes of working in the near future based on what we've learned. And we pulled together quite a disparate team of people who worked on projects, DevOps experts, application management experts, infrastructure experts, developers, testers, security expert, and for several days worked together. We of course had assumed we'd all be gathered in London. We even had the flights booked. We'd set it up months ago, and of course that couldn't happen. So we weren't really sure how this was going to work because we needed a very, very interactive working style. Otherwise it was just going to be a series of presentations and we weren't going to get any further. And actually the thing that we found was that by using Miro, we were able to split into working groups, set up other teams calls, and then work on different bits of the board, then come back together. People were able to record their thoughts. If people felt they weren't being listened to, because we have different personality types, some people are quieter than others, they could simply put stickies on the board and connect them, highlight them and say, now I'd like to comment on this. And that was very effective. It interjected them into the conversation. And we got a complete, oops, I'm looking in the wrong place. We got a complete, rather long list of all the things and all the people that had gone on during the workshop. So if we were wondering where something had come from, who'd said it, we could also select something and ask for its information. And it'll tell you who created it and the last modifier. So if somebody changed something, you can quickly go and find it. And overall, we came out feeling that without Miro, we're not sure we could have run that workshop. It was actually really, really useful, despite it not being about creating some marvelous digital product, which is what Miro was all about. It was meant to be about the visual, creative environment. Actually, this is pure technical ideas. It's interaction design, technical design, principles, debates, all that stuff. And actually, it worked really well. So I'm not particularly selling Miro. We have no interest in Miro. We don't resell it. We're actually very new to it, as you can tell, or at least those of us in Endava's technical communities are very new to it. Our product designers have used it for quite a while. But I thought I'd share it because it's something that I had never heard a technical person talk about before. And actually, in this kind of environment, we found it made us much more effective in running technical workshops.
Wow, that's awesome. That was really cool. Does anyone have any questions at all for Owen before we move on about Miro? Yes, Paul.
Hi, Owen. Thanks for that. I just wondered, did you have people on Zoom at the same time when you were going through that, or was it just completely here's the board?
Oh no, sorry, I should have mentioned that. So we you have to. So this is the collaboration tool, not the communication tool. I think actually somebody told me the other day it does have some communication features, but we don't use those. So we use Microsoft Teams to link everybody into an environment like this, and then we put the Miro link in the chat, and then people have two things up at once. So they're collaborating on Miro and they're chatting through Teams.
Yeah, so they were talking the whole time as they were collaborating.
They were, yeah, exactly. And actually, we did breakouts. That's something Teams isn't brilliant at, but it doesn't really matter because there's not that many of us. So we would drop the main Teams call, go into Teams breakout calls, work on different parts of the board. So you can kind of, out of the corner of your eye, you can see what the other team's doing, but you're not distracted by the conversation, and then come back together and share what we've done.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, Carl, did you have a question then, Corley? Come on to you next.
Yes, thank you. I've been using Miro. I love Miro. It's an excellent tool to do like workshops
cool.
and especially like liberating structure, something like that. If you have like 5 minutes to just do post-its, but what I realized is the Miro goes into like, they become huge.
Yes, yeah.
And
Even this board is quite, oh, I'm not sharing, but yeah, even the DevOps board is quite big. Yes, indeed.
And I found it very difficult to onboard people on Miro. So if you start having a lot of post-its, it becomes extremely complicated because it's just like a map of people's mind, or at least that's my experience. I was just wondering if you have any, do you use it in like with some other tools, kind of summarize the workshop?
Yeah. So actually, we see Miro as quite a transitory. So this is just our way of using it, but our way of using it is quite transitory. So it's like the whiteboards in the meeting. Afterwards, so there's another guy, my head of infrastructure, Peter Reed, and I put our hands up that for this particular workshop, we're going to be the summarizers. So we're currently working through it, distilling it all, but capturing it mainly on Confluence in a reasonably structured form. We're taking, so Miro allows you to export a frame as a JPEG. You probably know that. For everyone else, you can export the whole board, which is a bit big, or a frame as a picture. So we're embedding the pictures at the bottom of the wiki pages, but then we're actually capturing the proper output as text. And then we'll give the logins on the board back, actually, because we're trying to manage a central pool of logins, because it's 300 and something pounds a year per person, I think, which it's not a huge amount of money, but when you've got 7,000 people, for everyone to have one, because we want to be democratic about it, for everyone to have one, it's quite a big bill. And most people don't use it most of the time. So we see it as you sort of rent a group of Miro licenses, use your board, capture what you need, then give it back and we'll destroy the board. That's what we're thinking.
Thanks.
Corley, do you have something to add there?
Yeah, sorry. My question was very similar to what Carl asked, but it was more about training people to use the software. I was just wondering how, very briefly, how do you kind of onboard people to introduce them to the topic of it? Like, are you sending out video, like YouTube video tutorials, or are you kind of doing it personally, and how long does it take typically?
So Miro themselves, if you go into a paid plan, they'll train your administrators. So they've done that for us. So we're doing two things. Miro itself, when you first go in, because I've used it, it no longer brings it up, but there's a "can I help you get started" type wizardy thing. It's got lots of videos. So we let the people work through the videos. And honestly, we just sort of drop people in it. Generally, people didn't find it very hard. And when they had specific questions, it has an online help system with links to videos. So I think for one or two things, locking, we expressed a huge frustration with this problem that people were messing things up. And one of our administrators pointed out, who'd been trained, pointed out, oh, that's because you don't know about the lock feature. Let me show you. So for a couple of things, we got an expert involved, but for most things, people worked it out.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Owen. I'm like watching it, seeing your description and thinking I could do with one of those for every event that we do, like having everyone collaborate on the same kind of thing in real time. That's given me loads of work.
You could use Miro free to do that, I think.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, right. Thank you very much, then, Owen. Appreciate that. So moving on then to Weeson with a show of VS Live Code Share.
Cool. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to demo very well as well, like how Owen showed Miro. I guess I didn't really set it up that well. But what I can talk through is just the idea of the tool itself. If you've been into pair programming, I guess in the past, the tool that's been really popular is something called Screen Hero. So if you've used that before, it's really frustrating that that product has now been killed by Slack. So I think Slack bought that product and they adopt the feature, and finally the feature is not supported now. And you would figure out that there are many tools out there that are not actually as mature, like something called Use Together or something that's called Screen.so. And none of them that we have tried are actually that mature to support our pair programming that effectively. And if you've just started to work in a distributed fashion, what you might have tried is actually to use Zoom. But unfortunately, when we try to use Zoom, it's always quite a frustrating experience for us to pair program, because what happened is, if you think about like Google Docs or like Miro, for example, what it allows collaborators to do is you've got your own individual views, right? And when someone is trying to modify data in your own view, you shouldn't be taking control over other people's view. But what happens if you try to actually pair program with Zoom, you'll be fighting over control, right? You only have like one mouse and one keyboard over that one tool, and it's going to be less effective. And sometimes I would revert to not pair program, like I would stop driving. I would say like, I'm going to stop my control now. And then that also is becoming quite difficult if you use Zoom. Like when you spot a bug, for example, you're going to start to say like, pay over the attention to like row 28. No, not that one. And start to get really difficult to actually collaborate in that way. And not to say that sometimes when you use Zoom to pair program, things will get quite laggy, because the entire screen from your other counterpart is being rendered, right? Yeah, the entire thing will have to be rendered very quickly, and it get quite laggy. Sometimes it's blurry. Sometimes the what your pair is talking about might not actually be what he's seeing at the moment, and it's just really difficult to share. So if you're using VS Code, I guess check out this tool. I think it's been working quite well for us. There are a couple of like issues that is really frustrating for us, but the core product that itself, I think is really working really well for us. So you can think about this tool as like, again, Google Docs. Once you have installed this plugin and you run it, and when you connect this plugin into the other pair of yours, it converts your IDE into like Google Docs, basically. So you can start to type a code, and then your pair will be able to see what you're typing there. So think about like Google Docs, I guess. And because what we are transmitting there is like code and letters and text, it's no longer around screen rendering, right? Which means the entire thing is just really, really fast. And if you're trying to pair as well, like when you're typing a new expression or statement, you will not feel the lagginess of like if you're using Zoom, because what happens is when you use Zoom, when you try like the letter F, when you send that command will be sent over to your pair's machine, and then the F will appear here, and then you've got to wait for the screen to be rendered again that you've got the letter F being typed. And that slow feedback is quite a frustrating experience. But if you use this plugin, like when you type F, essentially the feedback that you've got is from your machine, and then it's going to be sent over to your pair, and the letter F is then appear there. There are a lot of other cool things that I was quite surprised sometimes. So if you're working in the front end code, for example, when your pair is like opening up the terminal in VS Code, you can actually see what they're typing in their terminal as well. When they start their local web application, normally a browser will pop up. It will actually pop a browser up in your machine as well. So those kind of like cool features are really handy when you're pair programming. So I don't really have anything to show, I'm afraid. Like apart from once you have installed it, I guess this is the screen that you're gonna get. If you're logged into GitHub, it kind of automatically detect who you have worked with, I guess, or who do you have in your GitHub org and things like that. And yeah, it will appear here. And if they have installed the same plugin, you can simply click on their name, and it will start a new live sharing session, and you can start pairing.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Luis. Was there anything else to add, or did anyone have any questions there on that tool, on how it would work? Yeah, Owen.
How does it deal with if one side jumps around in quite a large file? Say, I know none of us have these in our code bases, but some people have got very long files full of, say, definitions for configuration. And you leap around a lot because you're searching. Does it do that okay?
That will not work that well, because the frustration there is going to be very similar to Google Docs. Imagine if you have like a long
Yeah,
doc.
I was wondering that. Yes.
Yeah, someone is up there, but you're down there. And when they say that I'm typing something up here, you wouldn't know that they're actually typing it up here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So that
That's fair
part is not, yeah. I think the one that we find working really well is if you have managed to like sync the process of how you write code. For example, if you do TDD, for example, and the person is just focused on this test, like I'm writing this now, and unless you're actually paying attention to that at the same time.
Yeah.
And then when you actually switch over and write the code, everyone is always paying to the same attention there,
Mhm.
and that would work very well. But
Okay.
for troubleshooting, probably less so.
And is this part of VS Code, or is it a product you have to go and get alongside VS Code?
It is a plugin.
Oh, it's a plugin. Okay.
It's a plugin. It's free, and I think it's made by Microsoft as well. Yeah.
Nice. Thanks very much. That's great.
No worries.
Brilliant. Thanks, Reason. Any more questions, or we're going to move over next to Alex Nunes?
Yeah.
Yes, Fox. Is it Fox?
Yes, Fox.
Yeah.
So I have a question. At the moment, we are programming basically on Slack. So you start a Slack call with the other person. He shares his screen, he's coding. If you want to pick up the code after an hour, then he's pushing, you pull, and then you switch. Is it really worth to set up a tool like this? I wouldn't be happy about it, because, for example, you're showing Visual Studio Code, and I was last sprint pair programming with a developer, and he's using WebStorm on his Mac. I'm using VI on my Linux, and if you give me his Mac, I'll be completely lost. And this kind of stuff, so completely different environments. Is it worth setting up? Is it so much better than just going classically navigator driver and then you switch?
That's a good question. I guess that's quite a difficult question, isn't it? Because when it comes to IDE, sometimes for developers, it feels like that's a religion, isn't it? Like when you ask someone to switch Emacs to Vim, and then you're going to start the religious war there. And I guess, like, I would say it depends on the value that you're getting out of it. Like, if the current approach is actually working for you, then I think that's great. And if you think that the value that you're getting out of like a quicker feedback of collaboration in VS Code is more valuable than what you have managed to set up in your IDE, then yeah, try VS Code. I guess my suggestion there is maybe just try it out if you have not used VS Code before. Because before I was using VS Code, especially if you are, hang on. I guess it depends on the programming language that you're in as well, because we are currently using TypeScript/JavaScript, and that's kind of the IDE that works really well for that language. So yeah, I guess that's a limitation there if that's not the language that you're currently using.
Thank you very much.
But yeah, if you're on the JS or TypeScript stack, I would recommend you to just check it out and see how it goes.
I am obviously, but I won't go into browser wars. ID wars now. I just wanted to
save that for the breakout
yes,
room.
Yes. If this would really improve, if you see that the code sharing with live share is actually more efficient than one person sharing the screen, navigator driver type of work. Thank you.
That's good. Okay. Yeah, and by all means follow up. We'll have a breakout room afterwards if anyone wants to stick around. So yeah, by all means pick it up at that point. But okay, thank you very much for that then, Wiesen. Appreciate that. Okay, so now we're going to move on to Alex Nunes to talk about Moat.
Hi guys. unlike the other two, Wissam and Owen, mine's going to be shameless self-promotion. So without further ado, this is very new. We built this since the beginning of the year. It's kind of the product of a pivot with my co-founder in the Bay Area. We were sort of searching for opportunities around the audio space, and we were exchanging ideas on Google Docs, and that was kind of origin of kind of like actually, we see with asynchronous tools that there's this problem that you have Zoom, which is synchronous and has, voice and empathy and all the kind of high bandwidth human communication, that is, the best proxy for actual physical collaboration, for physical collocation, kind of one end, but it's synchronous. And then at the other end, you've got kind of Slack and Google Docs and comments, and that, they're great for asynchronous co-working, but you kind of lose the emotion and nuance of human communication. So we think there's this kind of additional opportunity for something in between those two modes. Asynchronous collaboration, Google comments, Google Docs comments, Google Sheets comments, Google Slides comments, but still using human voice. So that's kind of we've been in beta for the last month. We've got over, there's been over 120,000 users, no marketing. It's all just organic growth. We're finding the vast majority of our traction is with school teachers. And I guess this is almost the product which was designed for pandemics, even though it wasn't. In that, all teaching has gone online, and, teachers, vast amount of their work is providing feedback on their students' work. And so this is the perfect tool. But we think actually, we actually from the outset thought, that the whole education vertical happened by accident. And, we think actually that teams, especially software teams, they're producing Google Docs and Google Sheets and, Google Slides, generally knowledge work teams. And, how do you collaborate and give feedback? Well, you put comments. So without further ado, here's a little demo. You guys can all see my screen? Cool. So anyway, so here's the site, justmote.me. It's currently free. You can download it. It's a Chrome extension. You can download it off the Chrome Web Store. And, let's imagine that you're the CTO of, the team. Something bad happened yesterday, and the team have done great work in pulling together a post-mortem. You've probably seen this before. It's the Google SRE example post-mortem. And, there's, you can see here, we have a little, here's our plugin, Mote icon. As of yesterday, we put in a bunch of new languages. If you're curious, we're using GCP as a backend, so this list strongly correlates with GCP. So I am here, and so I'm the CTO, and I go, I want to put a comment, and normally you put a comment in like that, but with the Mote extension, you can just go, hey guys, oops. Hey guys, this is really great work. I love what you're doing with postmortems. We should do more of the same. Thanks. And that's going to start chugging away in a few seconds. There you go. It's starting to come back, trickle back with the transcript. And we think that humans speak 3 times faster than they type, but conversely, they read much faster than they listen to audio. Much bigger chunk of our brain is devoted to visual processing than auditory processing. But I think especially as an organizational leader, people do want to hear your voice, and it's very powerful. And we saw this from previous startup that there's a lot of emotion and power in a human voice. So hopefully we're sort of getting the best of both worlds here. We're getting the high bandwidth emotional communication of voice, and for example, here in a Google Doc, but people aren't, we're still not annoying our readers. They can still quickly eyeball, the contents here, and you can, by the way, you can edit it, because GCP doesn't always get it perfect, but it gets it well enough most of the time. We find with school teachers, there's about a 20% edit rate. 20% of the time people want to touch up the results of GCP's transcription, but I guess 80% of the time people are reasonably satisfied with it. And so still in beta, we see traction in K-12, in sort of secondary, middle school, especially in the US, but it's sort of, we've got Australia, Lebanon. I mean, it's kind of been pretty amazing, really, how this is just organically grown among school teachers, just recommending it to each other. So, I think, slightly embarrassing compared to Miro or LiveShare, the product surface, the feature surface is kind of tiny by design. There's a button here. It's super simple. You just click record, stop, start, and it, hopefully does magic in the background, and that magic will improve over time. We see this sort of going sideways. Teachers told us that they use Google Classroom a lot. So, we've integrated Google Classroom. We see going forward, embracing the Microsoft stack, Office and Teams. And I think, GitHub is probably something in the not too distant future. So, pull requests, we've heard of, pull requests can be, the feedback can sometimes be less pleasant than it should be, and if you have to say it in a moat, with your own voice, maybe there'll be a bit more empathy. So anyway, that's a little bit about mode. There's a bunch of URLs here. We have a little survey, Typeform survey, so you can. If you play with Moat and you don't like it, or you think there's something, there's a yes but, do tell us. We think this, in the medium term, this should be a great tool for knowledge teams, especially software teams. So yeah, if there's things there that it's almost good enough, we'd love to hear. And you can see my email there too. Okay, thanks guys. I will hand back the floor.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Alex. That's really interesting. Does anyone have any questions at all for Alex? No, we're good. So anything else, pick up then in the breakout rooms if you can stick around. But thank you very much. And Alex did check about the shameless self-promotion beforehand, I should say. And I said no, it was all good. Come along and get involved. Speaking of self-promotion, Carl, are you out there?
Yes, I am.
Good. Okay. Because yours is you're involved in yours as well, aren't you?
Yes. I can add this that it's a complete useless tool.
Cool. Have the floor.
So let me. Can I share this? Aha. Okay. Yes, so actually 2-3 weeks ago I did a kind of webinar on the importance of social construct and social interaction when it comes to remote teams. So comparatively to the Miro board, the LiveShare, or even just Moat, this is a complete useless tool for probably most of you. But for me, I just wanted to present the concept of how you interact with people in a non-functional way, or without any intention. Okay, so this is something, and I'll give you a really bit of a background on how this came about and potential failure as well. So another caveat: this is completely non-GDPR compliant. This is an internal tool we built called peeps.me, and the intention was because we are distributed and we are across Europe, I mean, some people are, there's people in Mexico and so forth, just like one person from his bedroom or similar. It was difficult for us to basically have this kind of social interaction. That wasn't Zoom, that wasn't like Slack, that was just like something happening, okay? So we built this tool, which is literally just taking, like, and I'll show you, you know, hopefully it doesn't work because I have two webcams. You see bugs up, and here we go. And I should update the picture. If it doesn't, I'm not sure why. But basically the idea is like it automatically updates your picture, and that's it. Okay, and you can check those who are online. I see that's a bug, and those who are not. But what this creates is a really funny interactive structure, because as you can see, myself, and this was last week, and David here and Ollie here, all dressed up, you know, is trying to like promote some kind of social interaction, and you kind of leave a breadcrumb of your interaction with the rest of your organization by just leaving a bit of a message. Like, for instance, Nina here is from Switzerland, so she kind of just showcased the fact that she is from Switzerland by using a mobile phone. And I've seen some phenomenal, I don't know, meme behavior by just having such a tool, okay? And what I realized that especially in nowadays when everyone's working from home, the importance of organizing social events or like social behavior that are not necessarily functional or rational is really important to keep a certain amount of spirit within the team, so you keep this kind of high performance. I mean, we've had like kind of cooking shows remotely done, you know, so everyone kind of gets together and cook a meal together and learn from that exercise. And we've been trying to build those type of tools to help with that. And just a last little comment before I give the floor back. I was adding some geofencing to this exercise. So we have about 3 offices across Europe, but we work with about 10 different clients that have their own offices. So I built a geofence, you know, structure surrounding peeps that you can have on your mobile phone. So as soon as you get home, it says that you're at home. And when you get to, let's say the office, it says that you arrive at the office. You can now say who's where, when. And within that, I unfortunately committed, and then I realized that there's a public repository, by the way, so everyone can just download and play with it. I committed a service key and racked up about $40,000 in Google Cloud by having someone just starting different images. So like that was refunded by Google generously, but just like a kind of warning as well in terms of like when you use one of those hacks, if it's public, make sure you have a good security structure that surrounds how you deploy your software. So that's about it. That's peats.me. If you have any question, I'm more than happily answer why we use those tools and how it's being involved in the day-to-day of running the business.
I really like that. Go on,
How much
sorry.
was Google willing to refund you again? Sorry, it's probably not related to at all.
No, so this is like, it's all on GitHub. I didn't realize it was on GitHub, and I don't usually participate in this project much. And I just wanted to add the geofencing, and I didn't realize that the key for testing that I was using, the service key, was pushed to GitHub, to a public repo that I deleted within an hour. Okay, but there are bots that must have captured that key and then started basically a lot of instances, you know, across the globe, probably mining Bitcoin or something similar. In like 3 days, it was up by $40,000.
40,000, and Google is willing to refund that.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Cool.
Not the
Thanks,
first,
Derek.
won't be the last.
These stories make me so glad that that I can't do that kind of thing. I don't have access to anything that could do that kind of thing. So
if you our experience actually, just on that, if you get caught out with any of the big cloud providers and you've burnt tens of thousands worth of dollars of resource you didn't expect to, just get in contact with your account manager. We've had our clients on Azure, GCP, and AWS have all had burst capacity forgiven because they know these things happen.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Carl. Appreciate that. It was a really cool little tool there. So we're going to go on to finally Sergey Solovyov with CRISP.
Yes. Hi, everybody. So I wanted to share a little tiny app that is pretty simple, but has proven very helpful. I don't know about you, but for me, it has. So these days, we are on video calls a lot, much more than previously. But even in the office environment, this is still useful. So the CRISP is a noise canceling application that connects to any kind of online conferencing and works with any headset or any audio devices. I will share my screen now so that you can see what I'm talking about. What I have open here is the website. So you can check it out later. They, among the other marketing content, they have little demos, which are real audios, presumably recorded with CRISP turned on and then off. And you can see hear the difference. The app itself really is a menu bar application that is accessible like this. I currently have both microphone and speaker. I've turned the noise removal on for these devices. And this is what it does. It works with both incoming and outgoing audio streams and tries to isolate your voice and remove everything else. It kind of creates a virtual device for the application you're actually using for the online conferencing. So if I can, let me see if I can bring up the settings screen of Zoom. Can you see this window as well? Yeah, great. So these are my devices, and you can see that for speaker and microphone, it's a virtual device from CRISP. This automatically becomes available once you activate the application. And inside the CRISP app itself, you can specify the actual physical device. In this case, these are my headphones that I have. And so what happens then is the audio stream goes through the application first, and then it reaches the destination that is meant to go to. As far as I can understand, all the processing happens locally. So it's privacy sensitive. It doesn't send your voice anywhere else. But I'm not a techie, I don't know how to check that. So I'm just passing the message. And maybe, I don't know if we can run a quick demo. What I can do is, firstly, I'm going to remove the noise cancelling from my microphone. I don't know, maybe you can hear my kids talking and laughing next door, can you?
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I can make it slightly worse by turning music on as well. I'm going to just put it aside. Can you hear the music? Yeah? Okay. And now you can tell me whether or not this is going to make a difference if I turn this on. So I can continue talking. You're supposed to only hear my voice, but not the background. So that's what the application does, really. There isn't really much more than I can share on that. It's available on subscription, but it's pretty cheap if you consider here's the pricing. So I'm on the Pro plan right now. There is a free option that you can, that allows you to test the app. Quite clever. It's based on the time, pure time that you spend in a conference call, as opposed to like days of usage. So it allows you to do a proper test drive. This is it. I'll wrap it up. If anybody has any questions, I can answer. Otherwise, that's the thing.
Thank you very much, Sergey. I appreciate that. And I must say, I saw Sergey talking about it on LinkedIn, I think it was, and said, and invited him and said, would you come on and show it off? So thank you very much. I appreciate you you coming through to show us that.
My pleasure.
I'm just going to show you something myself, actually, that may or may not help. Very quickly, I tried it once. I was nervous as to whether it would work, and it did. I don't know if it's going to work this time, but it's a tool called Loo, which is like a way to record something, record your screen for screen sharing. I brought it up on another CTO group, and not too many people had seen it. So I'm just going to try and do this. So can everyone see my screen? Yeah, okay, so if you just bring up this this Loom thing, then so you can do screen and camera, screen only, and camera only. So doing screen and camera and recording should enable me to make a brief recording of something. So if I just press start recording, should count me down. And I don't know if it is or not. Right, I now feel your pain of all the times I've seen people try and do demos when they don't actually work. I feel like I've joined a club here. Okay, so sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but this is the first time it hasn't worked. But generally, you'll see a 3, 2, 1 in the middle, and then it will start recording. And you can use your cursor to show this is how it looks for me when I'm about to start a Zoom call. And then you hit stop at the end. So it may well have recorded, it may not. And it takes you straight to this page here. It's all much quicker if I'm not on Zoom, but that's just it. And then it literally has this here, and that's your video. So you can use this for all sorts of training. That's what we've done it for. Oh, there you go. It did actually record. And you can play it straight through the browser and share the link and what have you there, all on the free plan. So yeah, stop sharing at this point. But yeah, it's been a really useful tool for sharing. I used to end up, because we're on Slack and all of our guys are remote, so the amount of time I can't help myself but send really long messages, as you probably all know from the mailing lists. So it was a lot of the time me writing how to do things for like these long messages. And as I think Alex said, you can speak so much quicker than you can actually type. So yeah, I just found that it was quicker for me to explain this, just I've made five times quicker to explain just these little things, little bits of training notes, and then just share these videos, and people were able to get it just so much quicker with using a combination of your face and the pointer and mouse click. So yeah, just wanted to share that in case that would be of any use to anyone there. Yes, Sergey.
At some point in the past, one of the members of my team has been using Loom extensively for bug reporting.
Yeah,
very handy.
It's transformed how quickly we can get that kind of information. Once you get in the habit of it, you just you don't want to type anymore to tell people things. It's quicker. It's much more. It's much better than a phone call because you can use your screen as well. It's much quicker than just typing. Well, that's certainly what I found anyway. Anyway, I just thought I'd share that anyway, since we had this, and thought it might have some use to some people here. So we're closing in on the hour, so I know people are probably going to have to go anyway. But if anybody wants to hang around, I'm going to open the breakout rooms now. So if there's anybody in particular you'd like to be in a breakout room with, then let me know. Other than that, thanks as always for getting involved. Please chuck your feedback to me afterwards. We'll send you out a form, so anything at all. I know most of the time people don't have the time, but anything that you want to add, let me know. Massive thanks to everybody that was able to demo a tool today. Really appreciate that. So I'm going to hit the breakout rooms button. Feel free to stick around or log off, and I'll see you next time. Cheers, guys.